All right, now let's investigate duplicating a database by connecting to the target connection. Keep in mind, the target, as Oracle refers to it, is the source database. The auxiliary is the destination database. If the auxiliary and the target can actually speak to each other, if there's not a firewall between the two of them, Oracle does recommend that you connect to both the target and the auxiliary. Although it's not required to connect to both of them, it just makes things a little bit easier. So here we have our RMAN backups. Our RMAN backups basically exist on the auxiliary system. We have the RMAN client that's going to connect to both the target database and then the auxiliary database. From there, you simply issue this duplicate database command. If you have a recovery catalog scenario, you can connect to the recovery catalog and you can connect to the auxiliary. There's no requirement to connect to the target. So we have lots of options. We can connect to the target and the auxiliary. We can just connect to the auxiliary. We can connect to the target, the recovery catalog, and the auxiliary, or we can connect just to the recovery catalog and the auxiliary. So there's many, many options here. Remember, the recovery catalog is going to contain the history about all of the backup information for that targeted database. And all this would do would make the duplication go a little bit faster and a little bit more efficient. If we do not have a recovery catalog and or we cannot connect to the target destination, all you have to do is connect to the auxiliary, and then you have to say duplicate database using backup location. As long as that backup location is available to the auxiliary database, it can totally duplicate that database into the new auxiliary location. Now keep in mind, it will only duplicate it up to the backup that it has. So if that backup is a week old, the auxiliary database will be a week difference between the two databases here, and that's just fine. A lot of times you're in production environments, you will hear the scenario, I need to refresh the QA database to last Wednesday's backup, and that is totally acceptable. A lot of organizations will use it this way because then they do not have to have any outside connections. They do not have to have a connection to the target, they do not have a connection to the recovery catalog, and they do not have to have a connection to a specific backup or shared device. They'll just simply place the backups in the location that the auxiliary instance can read, and then they will say duplicate database using backup location, and they will hard code the actual backup location. So these are the steps that you would go through